Hey everyone, this is Oren and my niece Sivan. I started deciding to make YouTubes about movies like 4 years ago with Sivan, and now we're kind of grown up a little bit. Not grown up in terms of seeing better movies, because we both watched a movie that is really bad, Saltburn. It's not awful. I guess that's what we should discuss. Is the movie Saltburn awful?
So my feelings on it is that it actually is not that strong of a film, and I think that a lot of the reactions just bounce off of the scandal, the scenes in it. And I think I've always heard the saying, and maybe you will agree with this, that when a comedian makes a bunch of inappropriate jokes, it's to hide that they can't actually be funny, and they know that if they throw in a curse word or so, everyone's going to start laughing. So what are your thoughts? Do you think Saltburn followed this tactic?
I think the main reason that a lot of, say, serious movie people saw Saltburn was because the person who made it, Emerald Fennell, and the person who wrote it and directed it, the last film she made was called Promising Young Woman, and that was a very good film. And it was a comedy, a dark comedy about rape, so it was dark, but it also had a very odd way of being tonally kind of amusing and fun, too. So the reputation of the person is pretty solid. I think this is a little bit like... This is a really interesting phenomenon because I think I've rarely seen a film so prestigious, so that people said, like, this is going to be a film that we should watch because we want to watch the films that are nominated for Oscars, that was so disturbing and gross. Like, I think a lot of people watched the film not knowing it was going to be as gross. Did you watch the film knowing it was going to be gross?
I did. I remember I watched it with my dorm at school, and they all had these warnings, like, oh, by the way, the movie's gonna be really scandalous. And I've seen 50 Shades of Grey, and in my opinion, this movie was a lot worse than 50 Shades of Grey. And I feel like that, it was definitely, I think, the most scandalous movie I've ever seen. Yeah,
it was very... And the question you're saying is it like shock value for the sake of shock value?
That's what I'm saying, because I feel like, for me, a psychological thriller is something like Girl on the Train. Have you seen Girl on the Train?
I have seen Gone Girl, which came out the same year, I think. I don't know.
They're very similar.
Yeah.
So let's compare those to this movie, because in my opinion, those movies... much better psychological twists.
Yeah.
Much better, much more, breathtaking. And they don't need all of that nudity and all of that, scandalous little elements to... Do you know what I'm saying? To have that effect.
Well, one of the big films this year is also Poor Things. It stars Emma Stone, and it's about a mad scientist who puts a baby's body inside a grown woman's brain. And so the grown woman, played by Emma Stone, she has to mature really fast, and she discovers sex pretty quickly, and it's very kind of icky in certain ways, and there's a lot of nudity because at one point in the film she becomes a prostitute.
But maybe that adds the plot. So my opinion to you is, do those sex scenes really add to the plot in Saltburn, or are they just there?
I don't know if it's the sex. Sometimes it's the bloodiness or the I guess the masturbation stuff or the
No, that's
all that
true.
stuff.
That's true. But I think that there was some shock elements that were needed, but at a certain point, it just kind of felt immature.
Yeah. You don't have to show certain things as long.
Yeah, it doesn't add to the plot, and I feel like this also reminds me of when those. I don't know, let's say a superhero movie. They don't have a strong superhero plot, so they try to get all the men to watch it by throwing in some women in some provocative outfits to
Exactly. That's known as fan service.
Yeah, fan service. And I feel like, in my opinion, your movie should be so good that you don't need that fan service to get people to watch.
We're also getting to a stage, basically, where almost no movies make money at the box office if they don't have explosions. Superheroes are made so often because people pay to see superheroes. And then people who watch superhero movies, they're just used to seeing superhero movies, so it's a cycle, and then good movies. At least Saltburn wasn't a superhero movie.
No, what I'm saying is just the scandalous stuff that they put in there just to have
But scandalous stuff might... I don't think scandalous stuff works like explosions in superhero movies.
No,
because
scandalous stuff is having the women walk around in thongs as their superhero outfit. That's what I mean.
I think superhero movies operate more through people like explosions. They like that stuff.
That's true.
They like fight scenes. They like action.
That's true. So I guess you could use that too, where they need that action to mask. For me personally, I love psychological thrillers. I love that horror. I love that feeling where you just like, you can't sleep because you're thinking about it. And for me, that feeling doesn't come from or like the jump scares. For me, it's about like that mental twist, like when you have like this big, and I didn't have that with Saltburn. So let's talk, like, what were your thoughts on, like, did the psychological thriller, like, did that end reveal of how he the whole time just wanted to take over and it was always his plan and he wasn't broke and he was lying, did that really get you?
Well, first of all, let's mention that people like explosions, but not only just people in America, but people in other countries where they might not understand the language as well. Like a film that's really heavy on language might not play well in Spain or China or Germany.
Yes.
So that's part of the trend.
No, but I disagree because you're watching an action movie for the action.
Yeah.
But you're watching a psychological thriller movie not for the sex scenes. Not for the scandal. You're watching the psychological thriller movie for that twist. And I watched Saltburn thinking this is a psychological thriller. So just the psychological thriller aspect, were you that impressed or amazed with it?
I was surprised by how deep he went, and there was a certain like poetic smartness to the film that you found out that he engineered the wheel to fall off, and that
He engineered the wheel. I thought he just like had it.
The wheel to fall off that caused him to meet
No, I
the
know,
main
but
guy.
I thought he just had it like where it was gonna pop or something.
Yeah, he unscrewed his bike so that he engineered the first meeting with the rich kid.
Yeah.
So we knew that he was way more manipulative than expected. So that, I guess, was a twist. I think there was also a question of like whether we're rooting for one guy or another, and I felt it was very dark. In the sense that I did not think that some of the people that were his victims deserved to be his victims. So I felt like I was on a different page than the person who wrote the story.
Okay, I've heard that claim where they're trying to say like rich people don't deserve what they have and that was a thing. I feel like for me though, with the characters, I was never rooting for the main character. I always thought he was weird. So I think an error that they made in the movie was they always made him weird.
Well, there's the cousin. The cousin was the mixed race cousin was just like a really horrible catty person that like you kind of wanted him to like, because he didn't treat the guy well. He was like, you're poor and like, you know, you're whatever.
Yeah.
But the main characters, the mother and the main kid, the Jacob Elordi character, was his name Felix? Felix I don't think there was anything overtly bad about him, and I think maybe a generation trained in like microaggressions and not recognizing your privilege might see him in a harsher light.
No, but he was a very nice guy. I also,
He basically did what he could. Sometimes you might be jealous of someone who has more, you know, he had more girlfriends than Ollie. He had more.
It's not, yeah.
But you know, I think that was maybe a mistake was trying to make Ollie more sympathetic and then kind of undoing that pretty harshly by having him not go out. He didn't go after the bad rich guys. He went after every rich guy. So there were rich guys who were nice to them, and then he preyed on it.
I think his goal was just to run the mansion and all of that. Like, I think that was his goal. I feel like, though, I think that what they could have, I just feel like there was a lot in the movie that, like, could have had potential. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
why
absolutely.
that one guest at their house left. I was like, wait, why did the guest
That
leave?
was because that was Carey Mulligan, and that was friends with the director, and she was like, could you write a part?
I jumped. Oh, my God.